We're going to be palpating the sternum in all three of its parts. So that would be up in the upper portion is the manubrium, in the center is going to be the body, and then the lowest portion it's going to be the xiphoid process. So I'm going to be starting with the manubrium. The first thing I'm going to have my partner do is to just push breast tissue down for me, and do I have permission to palpate everything above your hands. So easy ways to start is to find a clavicle. We'll follow the clavicle central, and I'm going to drop off the clavicle. This part of the sternum is called your manubrium. So the very, very top of the manubrium, where I'm placing my finger just onto the anterior part of the neck or the throat here, this is called your jugular notch. So this is in between the two clavicles right at the very top. If you ask your person to just start to lift their head up off the table, you will see sternocleidomastoids, and I'm going to be right in the center of that, and you can relax back down. So the manubrium extends down and heads towards the joining point of the body, and that's usually in line with the second costal cartilage. So I'm just going to count on the side now. So we have a clavicle, which is articulating with the manubrium inside the clavicular notch. That's not something I can place my finger inside of, but again, we can be at the sternoclavicular joint right here. Typically, you ask the person to elevate a shoulder gently up and down. So I'm going to place my fingers right on the joint line, ask her again to lift it up towards your ear a little bit, and then bring it down, and I can feel motion at this joint, confirming it. Just below the clavicle, dropping inferiorly, this is the costal cartilage of your first rib. So that's directly to the manubrium, and this basically disappears heading posteriorly right away as that first rib heads back towards thoracic vertebrae number 1. From the costal cartilage number 1, I feel interosseous space, and then I'm going to feel a costal cartilage of rib number 2. So this is where the body of the sternum meets the manubrium at a location called the sternal angle, or some people may refer to this as the sternal-manubrial joint or the angle of Louis. It's right in this location. Now I'm going to go down a little bit further than that within the bordering. So this is costal cartilage of 2, and below that is costal cartilage of 3, but I am not going to go any further than this until I ask her to change her bordering. So in this time, I'm going to ask her to spread breast tissue apart and ask permission to go down between the hands. So I'm going to go back to the sternal angle, number 2, number 3, I'm going to push through the bra in this case, number 4, number 5, and I usually like to stop at 5, and I'm going to approach 6 and 7 from below. So the last costal cartilage to make contact with the sternum is number 7. So these is your last true rib, where 8, 9, and 10 are considered false ribs because all their costal cartilage goes into 7. If I follow 7 up, that meets at the bottom of the sternum where the body meets the xiphoid process. So this is the costal cartilage of number 7. I've left my finger on 5, and in the middle here is number 6. Sometimes 6 and 7 can be almost blended together, making it very challenging for you to feel. Now on this last part, can you just lift up the bottom of your sports bra and kind of hold the bottom breast tissue for me? Perfect. So again, I can follow the bottom of costal cartilage, working my way up. I have a gentle bend on my fingers, trying to hook the bottom of it. And when the costal cartilage meets, this is going to be at our xiphisternal joint. So the joint line between the body of the sternum and the xiphoid process. So again, I have costal cartilage of 7 and costal cartilage of 7 on this side. I'm going to drop just below that. Don't push really hard posteriorly because it is fairly sensitive, right where the xiphoid process is. But you can place a finger or 2 and then ask the person to do a slight crunch. Good. And that's going to engage rectus abdominis, which is attached to the costal cartilage and that xiphoid process. Depending on who you have on the table, again, some individuals might have an 2 inch long xiphoid process, where other people it might be really small and almost unnoticeable. So again, underneath, placing your palpation finger, sink in with caution and care, ask the person to do a slight crunch, and that will help you identify muscle tissue versus a bony density of the xiphoid process. And that's going to conclude our palpation of the sternum from end to end.